Well, my name's Adam Dealan-de. This is the Adam Dealan-de podcast, and I'm here with Samadhi, and she is an ecstatic dance facilitator and DJ, and she's all-around glowing being. And I'm glad she's come on my podcast to talk about some things. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's so exciting to hear that you're doing this type of podcast to share more about ecstatic dance with the world. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you reaching back and saying you'd want to be on this. I thought we'd just start off with the question to you, because you've been doing this for quite some time. And how would ecstatic dance, like, what is it? What is ecstatic dance to someone who has no idea and they've heard the words and they're like, what is this? How would you describe it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough question, really. This is probably the hardest question there is all about ecstatic dance. What is it? Well, I've spent about 19 or 20, 21 years now trying to figure out what this is. And yeah, what's coming to mind first is that it's an experience that goes deeper and deeper and deeper, over time, which is very rare. Like, I mean, maybe in a spiritual, practice, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper over time. Mm-hmm. Basically, ecstatic dance is it's free-form movement, basically. And it's been around since all time and eternity that we know. I think the first documented piece of writing that we have about it was over 5,000 years ago. In the Vedic scriptures, they were talking about the Devadasis, the Indian temple dancers, and they were dancing for the divine. So it's a free-form dance experience. The word ecstatic itself has a spiritual connotation, because the word, over the years, there were ecstatic nuns, ecstatic priests. Ecstatic was something that you could reach, and it was beyond your normal, everyday, mundane experience. So the word ecstatic itself means beyond, beyond, and it has a connotation of like uplifting, positive, mystical, these type of things. So
so if someone's coming to an ecstatic dance, because they're definitely they're all over the place nowadays. Is there any kind of format or process that you'd say is similar or something that's universal now?
Yeah, exactly. So ecstatic dance as we know it today really evolved in a natural process. It evolved right here in Austin, Texas. That's the format that we know right now. It's got a warm-up, it's got an opening circle, it has a main dance, and then a closing circle. So it actually that was the dance that I went to and first experienced ecstatic dance in Austin, Texas. But it evolved out of a more therapeutic dance form called Sweat Your Prayers. Mm-hmm. So like in the 80s, there were dance classes going on called Sweat Your Prayers that had been developed by Gabrielle Roth. And as she was living in Esalen and getting to work with amazing psychotherapists and things like that, she had witnessed the correlation between some movement styles and music. And then she, this is like one of the best, I think, discoveries in dance is her discovering this 5 rhythms wave. So her flow, her staccato, chaos, lyrical, and stillness. She actually released, some videos on this, her ecstatic waves in the 1990s. But about the origins of ecstatic dance. So this was happening in Houston, Texas. There were 3 dancers there, Carola Marashi, Terry Teeters and Lori Salzman. They were dancing with Rosa Glenn Riley at a dance studio in Houston, doing Sweat Your Prayers with the 5 Rhythms Way. So these 3 dancers wanted to move to Austin. In the I think 1993, they moved to Austin, and they're like, hey, let's get permission to open one of these here. So they did. They opened one in Austin. It grew really fast, and by the next year, it was it was pretty full. Had a lot of dancers, and they were doing the verbal facilitation of the 5 rhythms at the time. So they would play some songs, stop the music, talk about the rhythms, play some more songs. So because it was really deep inner work. It was, deep psychological inner work that they were doing. Also, Carola and Terry were both psychotherapists. So, they loved psychodrama, and, so this dance form was perfect for them. And I think Lori was just a devoted dance practitioner. And so she loved it as well. So they had a lot of people coming, and the dancers they had contact improv dancers coming. And so the contact dancers were there, and, they were starting and stopping the music and talking, and the contact dancers were just doing whatever they wanted, contact, no matter what else was going on in the background. And, but Terry told me recently that, during the parts where they would talk, the dancers kind of took over, and they were like, hey, just dance, like they were yelling out, in the room, shut up and dance. So it's like, the facilitators were like, okay, well, our people want us to stop talking. And so, so they did. Then they were doing like the talking in the warm up, and then they would move into the dance. So the dance became nonverbal. And then eventually the warm up became nonverbal. And then they developed like an opening circle to do the talking. So they could, talk about the theme or the 5 rhythms. And then the dance would be nonverbal. And then at some point, Terry Teeters put a closing circle on there, because in their work, their psychological work with group therapy, it was very great to have a, sort of a sense of completion at the end, and where people could share back about their experience. So that became, a very healing experience to hear what kind of experience other people were having. But it also caused some problems over the years, I think, which is now why a lot of people don't have share back at the end of their dances. But so that was in 1994, where that structure sort of consolidated. And it made the dancers happy. It still was using the transformational music score of the 5 rhythms, and the facilitators were enjoying it too, because they had a huge dance here. And so that's the origins of it. But like, yeah, I didn't do a good job describing what is ecstatic dance.
No, you're good. And so then what happened? So then that became, because then you run an ecstatic dance now, is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Did you take that group over and then keep the thing going, or how did that emerge?
Oh yeah, so the Austin dance is actually still going back from those days. So from 1993, yeah, the Austin Sunday morning Austin dance is still alive and kicking, with different leaders over the years, different facilitators, different DJs. And I'm actually a DJ and a facilitator there now. I moved to Austin a few years ago. But what happened was I somehow got to a dance meditation retreat and met these 3 amazing dancers. And they told me about a dance class in Austin. And so I was living in Fort Worth at the time. I drove to Austin to go to this dance class because I'd never heard about ecstatic dance before. So I show up to the dance class, thinking that there would be a teacher giving instruction, because that was my background. I was a professional dancer my whole life in all the other forms, jazz, tap, not so much ballet, but contemporary, modern, swing dance, ballroom dance, all kind, every kind of dance you can think of, except for spiritual dance or ecstatic dance. So anyway, I showed up to this.
So just real quickly before you back up, when you
Yeah.
first heard of this, what was your impression before you even showed up? What were you
Oh,
thinking?
he didn't tell me anything about it.
Oh,
It was a cute guy, He was like, "Oh, meet me at this dance class," and he was a good dancer. We had met in dance meditation, which was a Sufi dance practice, and I didn't even hear the term ecstatic dance. He didn't tell me it was an ecstatic dance. He just said, "Meet me at this dance class."
Oh, okay.
And I
Gotcha.
think that's probably the only way he would have gotten me there, because at the time I was very into choreography. I mean, I wouldn't even like freeform dance around my house. I danced, professionally, but it was.
What, do you mind, I'm deviating a bit, but like, why is that? I've heard that before, like people who've danced professionally, they partner dancing or whatever, go, oh, I'm good at that, or I like that. But the idea of solo dancing or free form, what was it that first, what was it that was challenging? And then what happened when you kept going, I guess?
Yeah, because you can get it wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you have steps that how to do right, then you're going to be good, a good dancer. And that's how the dance studios brought us up all those years. You have to be a good dancer in order to be, reach the peak or whatever, gain popularity, get your students. You have to be good. So that meant you have to follow the steps perfectly. Not only that, you have to shine through, in your performance.
And if it's free form, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna shine? Is that what?
Yeah, if there's no steps, how are you gonna be like? Yeah. I mean, it's just terrifying. I was terrified when I arrived, because I walked in the space. My friend didn't show up yet, and so I was just like, I went to sit on the side and just stretch out, doing my good dancer, etiquette. And I was looking around for the teacher, and then people just started getting up and moving around. And then somebody went over and turned the music up really loud. And then people started just going wild. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to get in so much trouble when the teacher comes. But I'm not going to be misbehaving. I'm over, like still trying to be the good dancer, like a good student. And then some people came over and were just doing their arms around me, and they reached, for my hands, and they pulled me into the dance. And I don't know what happened. I was just in a altered state. I was, having a mystical experience. And it seemed like 3 hours went by. I have no idea what happened, but my body was totally covered in sweat. And it was wild. It was wild. And then the music stopped, and I was like, oh, my friend never showed up. Like, and the teacher never showed up. What? There's no teacher. I was like, what is this? It was cracking my matrix totally. And then my friend did not show up. And actually, that was the biggest gift he could have given me, because if he would have been there, I would have been like, what's going on? And, trying to talk with him and trying to do like ballroom dance with him or something. And yeah, so anyway, he's still one of my very best friends. This is like 22 years later, So that was, definitely a cathartic experience, and it grabbed my soul. Because I was at a point in my dance career where I was unsatisfied. I had tried all these forms of dance. At the time, I had a 12-year rhythm tap dance company. I had 2 companies, an adult company, a youth company, and I was teaching and performing all around Dallas, Fort Worth for 12 years. But I didn't like the lifestyle, first of all, because, after our performances, everybody would just go out to the bars and drink and whatever. And I was just like, this is not my ultimate space. This is not my home and dance. and then I would go salsa and merengue, and my brother and I were swing dancers our whole life. We would country and western, ball, just all of the partner dance forms, ballroom, and all of that. So I was like hungry to find my home in dance. I was, and I was asking the universe, I was asking God, like there's got to be a home in dance for me, like a place where I really feel like I fit in. And there was so many judgments, in the professional dance world, critiques and all of this, and and I wasn't the best dancer, in my professional dance career. But I loved it so much. I was so passionate about it. And I felt when I would perform, like I felt an energy would just move through me and touch the audience and make them feel like I could do that. Look at that. And that was just my favorite part of that sort of mystical, spiritual experience of performing, or even, doing choreography with a group. There's like a higher presence that can come through. So that's what I felt, when I went to the ecstatic dance that first time. That presence was definitely moving my body, and I don't think I, did one step, but my body was moving like crazy and doing all kinds of stuff. I was like, what is this? So actually after that, I just had to, I went back home, and I had to quit my tap dance career. So I had one last performance, and I went to Dallas and did a fancy, high-end dinner performance for National Tap Dance Day. And I had a mystical experience on the stage where part of my body was trying to leave the stage, and part of it was there doing the thing, and the middle body was like holding me together. And but I knew that was the last tap dance performance that I would do. Because
was it after because of the ecstatic dance experience that you made the bridge to say, okay, I think I'm done with the tap, or I am done with the tap?
I had to. It was like my soul was like, you can't keep doing this tap dance anymore. I'm like, okay. But anyway, so I was going to move from Fort Worth to Houston because I had a young son at the time. I was a single mom. And I wanted to be closer to my dad and my brother and be around family more for my son. So knowing that I was going to move to Houston, I learned about, I was actually going to by this time, the Austin dance had to change their name to Body Choir. So they couldn't use the Sweat Your Prayers, and Five Rhythms names anymore, because Gabrielle Roth developed a trademarked teacher training program at that time. So they were Body Choir when I first met them. And so I was going monthly from Fort Worth to Austin, and then I heard about their facilitator training program. And since I knew I was moving to Houston, I started joining their facilitator training program because, I had held dances in dance studios my whole life, and classes and workshops and all this. So that's just what I wanted to do. My soul was calling me to do that. So I took their trainings. I went to their weekend retreats. I went to the dance as much as possible. And I started training with Corolla. And so she actually helped me open the dance in Houston in 2003. And so she came over there and brought her music. And, I had been learning how to, create these transformational, music scores, this wave of transformation is what I like to call it. And so I started walking the streets of Houston, seeing cool people and saying, hey, we're going to have this event. Here's how I describe ecstatic dance. It's probably nothing like you've ever seen before, but it's going to be a ton of fun, and it's got great music, and I think you'll like it.
Nice.
Like, hey, I would like to invite you. Can I get your name and email address? Because we had email and phone back then, no social media. Well, actually we did. We had MySpace. MySpace is the first ecstatic dance page that we had. I was just thinking about that, MySpace. But so we started a dance monthly at first, and then one of the other facilitators, Oscar Maderas, who's still here in Austin, still facilitating and DJing every week. Nice. He's still doing music program for, I don't probably, 28 years. Yeah. He's been doing music every week.
Right.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
He's
Awesome.
an ecstatic dance shaman for sure. But anyway, so he started coming to Houston, helping me to, with our dance. But my first dance, I spent about 4 months walking the streets, collecting, over 350 names and email addresses, because I was, going back home there, but I was basically new there, and we were going to do it downtown. So I just had to meet, actually only one of my high school friends, ever came to it, out of a class of 500. But anyway, so yeah, we had 65 people come to our first dance, because
Nice, that's a good number.
I made sure to follow up with them and invite them, and call people on the phone. That's how we used to do it back then, and yeah, so we had 65 people come. It was an amazing experience, and eventually we started doing the dance weekly. But I basically ran the whole thing myself for several years. So I was, the everything person. And then Oscar really started helping me with the music and teaching me how to, because I had like rhythm tap dance music, jazz music, so I was like, well, that's okay if I use, one jazz song, but not like the whole thing. So
Sure.
that was a huge learning curve, learning about how to make this transformational music journey. But basically that's how I got started. And, at first we were going to be Body Choir Houston, but then what happened was Fox News, a couple years later, Fox News called me and said, hey, we want to do a story on Fox News about ecstatic dance. So I was like, yes, let's do a story about ecstatic dance. Come, so Greg Rogan came to our dance, and with the cameras and everything, and that was taboo.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if there were many pictures before, unless it was just a photo shoot of ecstatic dance experience, because what I had learned from my teacher was we don't take photos here and we don't video.
Yeah.
But after a while, I was like, this is such a transformational experience. We have got to show the world. We have to photo and video. So, and Greg Rogan, he really kind of let me know that was okay to photo and video, with permission of the dancers, of course. So, so he did an amazing 5-minute spot on ecstatic dance, and it's really such a beautiful piece. I didn't put it up on. I mean, it's nowhere to be found on the internet, but I have a copy of it. But
nice.
It's like, it all began with the beating of the heart, and he showed this embryo in the mother's belly, with this beating.
Oh, that's cool. He went into it.
Yeah, he did a great job. So, I after that, I actually, got our MySpace and started doing photo days with our group, and trying to be as authentic as we could, because anybody who's been to an ecstatic dance knows it does not necessarily look good, and it's not supposed to. It's like Vin Marti used to say, dance ugly and drool.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's the invitation. You want to be authentic and true to your soul and express, in tears or ugly. I mean, there's no ugly or beautiful there.
Yeah.
There's no judge.
Seeking the authentic, the authentic.
Right. Yeah. Like getting to the music and the facilitator can help the participants drop down into their relaxed, comfortable body state, so that we can open and our hearts can open, and our, and drop judgments about ourselves, drop judgments about each other, and be in this open space where what happens? Well, we start feeling vulnerable.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times our judgments are going to come up, our self-doubt, our criticisms, our, frustrations, our fear, like what what are they going to think about me? You know,
Mhm.
well, they're not going to think, they're going to think you're beautiful. That's what they're going to think. Because, you know, I mean, I don't know, we, you know, use certain language in the opening circle that can really soften people's heart and let them know that we're going to, you know, see each other in our highest light. Any expression that we're having, whether it's tears or screaming or you know, screams of ecstasy, it's all, you know, perfect. We're all in the perfect spot. And
You
that's what,
said about that, about you just recently did a workshop on creating that sacred space.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that there is, you found there is some certain things to do that would heighten that. What did you find?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and that leads, you know, into the continuation of our story,
Sure.
the sacred space. And so the first few years was really challenging when I opened my dance, and I was also following body choir. You know, I was still participating there too, and there were a lot of issues, you know, that would come up from the dancers, from the community. Even though it was known as a sacred space, they didn't really say that in opening circle, but you know, one of the first things I was taught, as you know, by my teacher, was that we're spiritual beings having a human experience.
Mhm.
And since I was in their dance having spiritual experiences, I took it that this was a spiritual experience, and
Sure.
that's what I wanted, because I had always been a spiritual seeker. But yeah, so but you know, I mean, maybe especially back then when we didn't have any like awakening and enlightenment and, you know, these type of terminology going on. We're just like regular people that had, you know, social conditioning that we're not good enough and we're bad people and we don't
Mhm.
really have what it takes, you know, all these stories. That conditioning can be removed, you know, as people are courageous enough to keep coming back, you know, to the ecstatic dances and being willing to face their, you know, their issues. Like what I learned is um, the state, my inner state, you know, if I had some fear or doubt or anxiety, it would show up in another person to reflect back to me my, you know, here's what your state is. You know, it's kind of like
Mhm.
the universe holding a mirror.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel that way, you know, inside. But it would be irritating and frustrating. And then, you know, personality conflicts. And then there was no such thing consent back then.
Mhm.
We did talk about doing our best to respect our boundaries and the boundaries of other people. But honestly, it took me, I don't know, 7 years to figure out what a boundary was. You know, like we were
So you had
saying
a lot of the issues. You said a lot of issues were kind of boundary, like what were like.
boundary issues were happening. Yeah. So dancers would start coming to me, you know, the mama of the dance, and like, well, can you talk to so and so because he poked me or he was trying to, you know, touch me in a place I didn't feel comfortable. And a lot of that was happening. And plus, our dance started out at night. So the people that were coming, you know, nobody had ever experienced this kind of thing. And, you know, how can you say it's a spiritual experience at that time? You can't really say that back then.
Mhm.
But it was definitely a human experience. But people were coming in like they would come into the clubs.
Mhm.
You know, that's all we knew back then. You go to a club and you dance to music and, you know, oh, this time you don't talk. So that's supposed to make it spiritual or sacred space. Well, not really. I mean, you
Plus, I
know,
imagine, you know, some even today, I mean, that anybody trying it for the first time, you start activating your body. We're sexual, so you start getting
totally.
aroused, and there's somebody, a woman or a man or some, you know, or non-gender, someone that we're also. Whoa, look at that body. Oh, whoa, you know, holy, look at
Yeah,
that body. You know, and so I think a lot of people experience that in the beginning, that they have a sexual arousal because they haven't moved their body that way maybe in their whole life.
definitely.
You know,
Right.
and
And
so
since
it brings
nobody's
it out.
talking and it's dark and, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, so there was a lot of that. And then the questions really started coming to light, like verbally being acknowledged, like what is the difference between sensuality and sexuality in this dance? And, you know, uh, in the opening circle, we did start saying, you know, hey, everybody, there's a difference between sensuality, which is very welcome here, and sexuality, which is more of a private thing that you do in the privacy of your own home or in your own life. So, you know, unlike a club, you know, we're not here to like find someone and make out with them. We're here to be, you know, exploring the depths of ourself, getting to know ourself better, and being in like a spiritual unification with other people in the group. And so, you know, like over time, just little things that we could say in opening circle started, like nothing we could write about it was really understood. I think, you know, it took a while, but it's so exciting to see it getting here now. But yeah, so eventually my facilitator, I was like, this is too much work for one person. So I got a team of people that wanted to become facilitators and had Oscar come and train us. So we had a team from then on, even till now. We have a team of facilitators and a team of DJs. So luckily, a lot of these, all the facilitators that were on my team were very spiritually minded, conscientious and conscious beings that wanted to evolve through dance and that were evolving through dance. And so we all made a very conscious effort to try different things. Like, okay, we're saying it's a sacred space, but all these, you know, all this stuff is happening. So, you know, later I learned that, oh, I have to hold the template of the sacred qualities that I want to exist here, because the leader has the primary power of control, you know, of the space, no matter how much other people might try and come and overpower your, you know, energetic, sacred, you know, space. They can't really do it. I mean, they can contribute and help, but so it just took quite a few years to try different things. I was practicing yogi for 20 years. And so this was during that time. So I was learning about spiritual, retreats, and like, how do they create a sacred space? Because in a spiritual retreat, you walk in and people are like sitting up straight, you know, and whoop, they're on their best behavior, you know, and they're still getting to have a deep experience. So over time, we just learned some, what I call intentional architecture, and it's the invisible energetic structure that we could place in our dance, in ourself first, and then in our dance, you know, before the dancers came, and then at the end of the dance. And once we started all practicing that, it was very noticeable. You know, some people didn't come back, new people came. And so what we found was we started attracting the right tribe that we really wanted to be there. So we had much less issues with, you know, sexuality, or people crossing each other's boundaries, or, you know, touching in weird ways, and all of that, because we did lose a lot of dancers with those kinds of experiences. But yeah, so
you would then end up saying in the beginning of setting the intent was also, you know, energetic, but was also verbal. Like, would you say, hey, you know, in the setting, we want you to do, you know, this is the boundary? Or did you find just by your presence, the way you intended it, it just happened?
Yeah, this was all behind the scenes work. It was spiritual and energetic work behind the scenes. So part of it was each one of us as facilitators learning how to have a high vibration, keep our vibrations high. So that's, you know, the piece within, you know, peace has to start within, with ourselves. And so we all started making sure that we are keeping our vibrations high. And then we learned these different structures to practice before the event. And then before people came to the event, we would set up some structures in the space that were energetic, invisible, but having to do with, you know, co-creating with our divine. And this is when I got the message from Luke Skywalker. Like, I had been to so many spiritual retreats, and you know, Hindu this and yoga that and Buddha's this and Native American that, but I never got this thing that I learned finally when my roommate was like, let's watch Star Wars, and I was like, Luke Skywalker learned, he was just like a regular dude, but then he had this calling, and then he that calling, like I had this calling for Ecstatic, it took him to Yoda, and Yoda was like, there's the Force, you have to learn to use the Force, so what you do is you have a force that you want to work through you for the truth and integrity of the highest good of yourself and all beings involved. And so that is when I was like, the source of the dance. Yes, I want to co-create with my divine, the source of the dance. And, we were like, oh, may the source be with you and all the fun stuff, but yeah, so it was, this is not something that we would tell our dancers about, because what we learned, we tried, a few times, but what we found is that it would really kind of distract them from the transformational experience that they were there to have. So as a facilitator, you're kind of like a parent to the community, and it's not that we want to treat them like kids, it's just that we want to do, we want to make their experience as good as possible. So we'll do whatever it takes to try and find out how to keep them safe, how to have the best experience, possible in their life. And so this was just something that we did and still do behind the scenes. And if anybody's interested in learning it, I love teaching it. And so, yeah, I just got to teach a beautiful group of about 20 of us in my recent online class, Sacred Space and Ecstatic Dance. So I teach all of those, all the every little detail of the structures, and how people can customize that to make it your own, co-creation. So that started working so well that our dancers, that happened at the same time that the other biggest problem. So, one was the biggest problems that I had, in developing what we wanted to do is the sacred space issues, and then the music journey. So at this same kind of point, we were no longer allowed to use the terminology of the 5 rhythms. And, at the time I was learning about the chakra system, in my yoga practices and meditation and philosophy. So I was recognizing, like, well, the chakras are aligned with the endocrine system. Each endocrine gland is associated with an emotion, and so produces chemicals in the body. And it was like, those are the chakras. And then I saw it one day, I was like, the 5 rhythms are in the chakra system. Like, that is brilliant. Of course they are, because it seems like whatever is really true and aligned with truth is in nature. It's natural. It's nature has it there. So of course the 5 rhythms would be, aligned with our body. But there were several chakras that weren't in the 5 rhythms, because and there's a good reason for that. But anyway, so I was so excited, like, how can we expand the 5 rhythms to fit this chakra map? Can the chakras be a map that is a transformational music score for for our dance? And so one thing I had to do was lengthen the dance from 1 hour to 1 hour and 20 minutes to like, after the first wave peak, you get up to chaos, which I now call empowerment. And then in the chakra system, that's the 3rd chakra, the first high energy peak. And then so we have to slow down right after that and open the heart. So now we needed a little bit more time to have this heart opening, slow heart opening music, where a lot of the catharsis was starting to happen then, because after we exert all of our energy building up to chaos or empowerment, and you just kind of have this music that's like suspending and integrating, and then it just drops into a heart opening song right there. And then tears roll down the eyes, because I mean, one of my goals is I want to make people cry, just because, it's good for us.
Uh-huh.
So then we slowed. So in our in our music flow, then we start slowing down, opening the heart, and then building back up into a second high energy peak, following the chakra system, which is at that point where we're here in the heart. We're going to open up the voice. That's the creative center, playful, inner child, celebration, celebratory, and then third eye anthem. Yay, everybody, look what we did together. We won, woohoo. And then lullaby for the crown, and then ending in nirvana and bliss. I call it our soul star, our home in the cosmos. So that was our second biggest challenge, that we had, was developing the chakra map as a transformational music flow. And then what we found was it worked so well that it was better than any mystical experience I'd ever had at any ashram or in India with any guru or, with any of that. And therefore, I never became a devotee to any of my, spiritual groups, just because if you can show me an experience that's better than my dance, I'll think about being a devotee of yours.
Nice.
But it never happened. So I was like, well, okay, I guess we have our sangha, and I guess we have our spiritual group, and even though I was still hoping to follow someone else, it's like, well, this is the best experience I've ever had in my life. So, and then our dancers were also having mystical experiences in, following this chakra map, at every dance, and hearing the share backs at the end, life transforming, like somebody's mom would come to them through another person, give them a message, just these people pay thousands of dollars to go try and get the information that was just coming free and naturally in our dance. And I think it was because of the sacred space and the transformational music score that that got developed. And so by from 2003 to 2014, I realized, wow, this musical flow would work anywhere in the world. I'm positive of it. And then I wanted to start sharing, our music with other dance groups. And I was also doing facilitator trainings and DJ trainings every year, maybe once or twice a year. But, once Skype came about, I would include people could find me. So that's how I've been training people. They find this one little link on my website and they contact me, and then they can take my training. But I have never really done any marketing or anything like that, which I would love to do, just because I feel that I've had a lot of really deep, great experiences and gained a lot of wisdom over the years. And I love to help other people now. Like now I'm at that sort of matriarchal stage where I love to help share the wisdom, help others develop, to, learn what they can from me, but then go on and develop and evolve on their own, but I would like to share, just the wisdom that I've gained over the years with anyone who is interested. But yeah, so then I did start, sharing around the world, and I still do online trainings, but there's no way you can really find out about it unless you find that one link on my website. I need some help putting a call out for help. I need some marketing help. Anybody who wants to come and be on my team to try and I don't know, just share and help.
I love what you did, because it's I think that's what I love, that you took the maps and the information that you had gotten, and then you danced it and experienced it and evolved new maps, new ideas from your experience from yoga, from your experience in the dance. And then that's brilliant. I think that's wonderful. Seeing this situation of oh, this is what's happening, that, the problems you're having on the dance floor, and then not just so often we take a direct, here's the rules, but to go underneath that with an intention and you said a structure of just like a, spiritual, energetic structure, and say, okay, I'm inputting this intention into the group, and that you saw results from that. And
Right. Yeah.
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what Body Choir had to do. They had to, they came in as Sweat Your Prayers, and they had to evolve because of how the community wanted to go,
Yeah.
And then I started out like them, and then our group, we had to evolve in the way that our facilitator team was desiring. We desired to have less interpersonal issues, and we desired to have spiritual experiences, so we figured out how do we create that. So and I think that's one of the beauties of ecstatic dance, really, is it's an open source format where every community will have somewhat different needs, and can adjust their their philosophy or their structure around what those needs are for that community. But I mean, it does have like this common thread of freedom, peace, love, joy, evolution, unity, ascension, awakening, enlightenment. I mean, I've definitely had some amazing enlightenment experiences in the dance, and with other people, with myself. But yeah. So let's see.
And you
Did
took
I
it to
answer the
Goa too, I
question?
think. Yeah, there you go. And I see you took it to Goa
I'm
as
sitting
well.
on a ball.
Oh, so yeah, that's.
I'm sitting on a ball.
I should get a ball. That'd be a good idea.
How's she jumping around?
Yeah. Bouncy, happy.
These are great memories. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all this. I think it's vital to learn some of the stories and his stories, her stories, dance stories, of what transpired and what and why come. So there's so many people that I think would be enriched by the experience, but they just don't know the context of it, like what and there's fear and there's apprehension and whoa, because we're stepping into expressing our authentic self, and so much comes up in different ways, and we got to work through that to get to a place evolving into an ecstatic space, a place of joy.
It's way more popular now, with authentic relating games and all kinds of, the young generations now are really all about, being authentic and sharing your truth and hearing and seeing each other. It's so beautiful. So beautiful. So I think that, it's getting easier now. And obviously there's a lot more people that are interested in it now, because it's bigger than it's ever been all around the planet. But I think that it's important for different dances, to try to describe what their dance is about, because ecstatic dance follows this structure, but within that structure, the leader or the group of leaders either need to figure out what their community wants and go with that, or they need to know what they want to serve their community, and write about that if they can, or try and express it somehow as kind of a form of consent, so that people know what they're coming to. That way they can actually attract their right tribe to them, because that's what we learned, is that if we just started the dance and all kinds of people showed up, because we didn't know what we wanted. But once we did, we were able to make that happen and attract the tribe that we want. So, for me, like these days, so many people are like, it's an ecstatic dance, but you go and it's like a dance party, it's like I mean, that's great, but it's like, hey, this is an ecstatic dance, the ecstatic dance party. It'll be alcohol free, substance free, yay, healthy environment. But they won't necessarily have, like the deep psychological work that, had been going on or whatever. So all the different varieties of ecstatic dance are great. And I think they're very important for, different people at different stages. And if somehow we can describe what we're doing, a little better, like, I don't know exactly, but I'm just putting this out there to the universe. Like, how can our dances describe themselves better so that we know what we're going to.
Yeah.
And
That's true. There's a lot of hard to describe the wording, because ecstatic dance really goes across the spectrum. It's free form, but there's, it could be, like you said, a dance party to something that's more personal and spiritual, and yeah, it could
or
be
deeper, or the music could just be chill lounge,
yes,
it's like, hey, where's the wave? Like,
yeah,
I wanted to, get into some empowerment and chaos,
Yep.
But yeah, so I think the point where we're at right now is just to I don't know, hopefully we can kind of
What's happening in your community now post
yeah.
pandemic, so to speak, that
Oh yeah.
now emerging?
Yeah.
What are you noticing? What are you experiencing in the last say 6 months to or till now, in the now moment? What are you finding?
Well, during the pandemic, the big dance that was here, all the dances stopped for a while, but then one of the dancers said, hey, I'll just rent a sound system and we'll go dance in the park. And we'll play, replays of, those sets for a while. So we did that, and it was very fun. It was, at first we're like, ew, we don't want to dance outside. But then we're like, oh, we love dancing outside, But then we kept getting kicked out of the parks, and, didn't have a sound permit and all this. But finally we got this guy got a space, and the other guy didn't want to keep doing it, so so he found the biggest space he could find in Austin at the time. So that's where we're still at now. It's a beautiful ballroom dance studio. It's called Go Dance, and it's the north location, and we dance there every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And right now we have six live DJs and facilitators. I'm one of them now. So that's super great. It was great to move to Austin and then get to actually, become a facilitator and a DJ at the Sunday morning Austin dance, where my first transformational experience was, in a different, building, but here in Austin. So, it's huge. I did the New Year's Day dance on January 1st this year. I love to do a wishing well ceremony. So I set up a beautiful altar with a crystal bowl full of water, and I put coins, coins on the table so people can pick up a coin, dance around with it, make a wish, and then drop it into the water and ring bells. And so we make a lot of wishes on the first dance of the year. Well, we had, I think, about 185 people come.
Nice.
So it was packed.
Right on.
So yeah, and more people are coming back to dance, as time goes on. But yeah, we need a bigger space actually already. And it's going great. And now a whole bunch of other ecstatic dances have opened up here in Austin. A lot of the nighttime dances, probably almost every night you could find either contact improv or an ecstatic dance of some sort,
That's awesome.
Some are monthly, some are, I think, some are weekly. Some are at yoga studios, are now finally yoga is accepting ecstatic dance.
Yeah. Like, okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's definitely been a beautiful journey. But yeah, it's going great. Actually so many dances are starting now. And now that I'm living here, I get to be friends with, these people. So they're learning about my training, and some of them are like really wanting to go deeper. So that seems to be what I'm really good for, is to help people to go deeper, in their experience, and really find that the purpose of what they want to offer their community, but to go deeper, definitely in spiritual, in sacred space, and spiritual feelings, and transformational music journey. So I'm about to do an ongoing class live in person and also online with the transformational music score that I now call Samadhi Flow, but that's the chakra map. So, because like the ultimate in yoga is Samadhi, or Maha Samadhi is conscious death. you know.
Mhm.
So but that's like the ultimate state of bliss and ecstasy. So yeah, that's what the musical journey takes us to, bliss and ecstasy. So my name just so happens to be Samadhi. I was given that name by one of the spiritual gurus that I worked with. So before that, I was known as Sunshine,
Uh-huh.
which I also had a spiritual awakening one morning before I met Ecstatic Dance, where
Mhm.
I woke up that morning and I was like really hot. So I looked in the mirror, which was just right there by my bed, and rays of light were coming out of my body, and I just wept in ecstasy for hours and just like, I am a sunshine. How can this be? Like, and it took me several years to say my name is Sunshine, you know, because I had to like move upscale to to say that, you know. And now saying Samadhi is how to move. I constantly having to move upscale still.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for your time. That was beautiful stories and sharing. And definitely, I'll get your links and I'll put them in the however people can get when they get the podcast. It'll should be in there.
Okay, yeah. Well, I do have a website.
Okay.
It's called Ecstatic Dance Evolution
Mhm.
.com.
Okay.
So and I have a Facebook group that's also called Ecstatic Dance Evolution. That's my Facebook page.
Okay.
My name, my given name is Sydney Strahan, but my Facebook name, they make me use my real name. So my Facebook name is Sydney and then Samadhi Strahan. And I do have an Instagram. It's called Ecstatic Dance because I was the first one to get on Instagram.
Nice.
I was like, okay,
Got
we're
it.
Ecstatic Dance.
Nice.
And yeah, I facilitate here in Austin about once a month and bring music as a music facilitator and DJ. And also I'm me and my girlfriend Sonia Sophia, who is a healer of emotional freedom technique. We're doing a combination event called Self-Love Soiree. It's where
Ooh, nice.
people can get dressed up really nice. It's like a swanky high-end spa. It's a
Mhm.
beautiful space. And so she leads she leads an EFT session for about 90 minutes. So we are tapping on any of our issues to clear out blocks and things from our life based on different topics.
Okay.
And then everyone's feeling great and I put on the ecstatic dance music and then we're just dancing and experiencing our total joy, love, bliss, freedom, and ecstasy for another 90 minutes. So that's also going to be a monthly event here at Kuya, Kuya in Austin.
Nice. So if
And
anyone, do you have a message for anyone who's never done any of this and they just listen to us speak? Do you have anything you'd love to tell them that, either get them to jump on board, or what would you have to say to people who are just like, I've never heard of this, now I've heard you?
oh, okay, yeah. Ecstatic dancers are a very unique and less of a rare breed these days, but our people are filled with love and compassion and joy, and we are ecstatic to meet you. You will not be judged if you come to our dance. You don't even have to dance. I would just suggest go to dance and just sit there and watch for the beauty, watch for the authenticity, watch for the expressions, and see how it makes you feel.
Nice. Well, thank you for your time. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much, Adam. Yeah, I'm
Right.
so happy to be sharing, and I can't wait to listen to more of your podcasts. I want to get
Oh,
to
thank
meet
you.
other people and
Yeah.
their experiences.
Yeah, we just had a couple before you, and we got a whole bunch coming up. So it's kind of exciting.
Awesome. Where can we find your podcasts?
Adam Dealan-de podcast, it's called, and you can go on Spotify. Just put in my name, Adam Dealan-de, DEALAN-DE. Or it's also on a bunch of others, and it's on YouTube. It's a YouTube podcast. So I'm looking to put it on Amazon and Apple, or they're coming up, but you just have to do a couple of requirements, but I'll have it on there as well. So
awesome.
wherever
That's
you get your
great.
podcast.
I mean, we've needed this for a long time, so thank you for tuning in and getting the message. And now you're going to be getting the message out even more. Yeah, and I would love to have more conversations with you to
Yeah,
find
I would love that.
what
Yeah,
your
I'd love
experience. We need to interview you.
Okay, there we go. Cool. Yeah, I'd love to come to Houston too and check things out there. It sounds
Yeah,
like a
Houston,
community.
they have a great community. When I left 3 years ago,
I'm sorry, I meant to say Austin.
oh yeah, Austin. Well, Houston still has an amazing community. They're still going. So when I left, I made sure that they were, going to still keep it going. And they're going and going and growing and expanding as well. So
sweet.
Yeah, in fact, I just went back there for we had our 19th year anniversary celebration.
Oh, nice.
In November. So it was a huge party.
Beautiful.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Adam.
Yeah, thank you,
everyone out there. I hope you try out ecstatic dance, or at least just go and feel the love, because I think this world is ready for it. And it's a place where we can feel at home and welcome and invited. And we can feel at home there. So come on home.
I love it. Thanks.
Awesome.
All right. Take care.
Okay. All right. You too. Bye-bye.
All right. And